Eddie Nketiah has been called up to the England squad. Massive congratulations to him. We thought we'd do an In Focus here on AFTV to talk about why he's got the England squad call up, how well he's done for us on these opening 4 games. He's been one of the better players. If you look at the player ratings and stuff we did the other day on the channel, a lot of praise for Eddie Nketiah, a lot of appreciation for the work he's done and how much he's evolved. We want to break it down here in this video, In Focus, where we take deep dives on particular players. And we are here talking about Eddie. The call-up, we've got the England squad here. Gareth Southgate has called him up for the games against Ukraine and Scotland, I believe, is the other game. Good to see some other Arsenal players there with him. Bukayo Saka, of course, and Ramsdale, who they've been in the squad for a while. Declan Rice, he's been in the England squad for quite a while, only this is the first time we're seeing him as an Arsenal player. And that feels good. You know, I'm used to reading that list and thinking, oh, not many Arsenal players, but plenty of representation there. The likes of Smith Rowe and other players we know, Ben White, you know, have the opportunity, have been in squads before, and we hope will be there again one day, but still plenty of Arsenal representation at the moment. Eddie Nketiah there, really well done to him. Now let's look at his player profile. Just remind ourselves of just as a very baseline, who we've got here in Eddie Nketiah. We know that he's a Hale End graduate, 24-year-old striker who stands at 5'10". He's a right-footed goal scorer, and we know he's been scoring goals, you know, in pretty much every academy level. In fact, if we just have a look at some of the numbers, we know he broke the England under-21 goal-scoring record with 16 goals in 17 games. And he's actually got 29 goals in 91 appearances for Arsenal as a striker. Of course, he's played out on the left at times, he's played various positions, but largely he's been a player who it's all about his understanding for movement, his understanding for picking up certain positions. He can just smell and sense where the ball's going to fall, and he gets himself into very good areas. Sometimes it means games like Palace, where he's missed a few chances, there's that criticism, why didn't you put it in the back of the net? And it's right to ask those questions, but often you also just have to praise the fact that he gets in those positions and he knows how to work and fashion himself chances. Let's look at a goal he scored very recently, actually, against Fulham. Before we do, he's had a kind of weird start to the season, actually. He didn't start the Community Shield game, having scored in the Emirates Cup. Then he starts the next 2 Premier League games against Palace and Nottingham Forest. Then doesn't start against Fulham at home because he went with Trossard in that game. He was also very good in pre-season. Then gets to start against Man United, where Gabriel Jesus was an option, having come off the bench against Fulham. So it's actually been very hard to know. I think when we thought Nketiah would be starting, he didn't, and then when we thought actually he'll probably be on the bench, he'll go with someone else, Arteta, he has opted for Eddie. Listen, that's good, that's the unpredictability we want in this Arsenal team. He came on against Fulham and made a massive difference. Have a little look at this. We've got Fabio Vieira out on the left, and Eddie Nketiah, we're 1-1 at this point. We've just scored a penalty to pull us back level. And this is just, I cannot do justice on the tactical pad, how good that ball was from Fabio Vieira. But Eddie Nketiah is very good at picking up these sort of pockets, the understanding for the space in between defenders, and you know, knowing that he has to sort of attack that space. And he does it very, very well in this goal, and just sensing, like I said earlier, where the ball's going to land. Fabio Vieira with an exquisite cross. I mean, a lot of the work is done by the ball from Fabio Vieira, but Eddie Nketiah still needs to get there, open his body up, get that kind of side foot to just guide his back of the net. The pace is there from Fabio. So watch it again, the pace from this ball from Fabio Vieira, the hard work's done there. Eddie just needs to guide it. I say just needs to guide it. It looks easier than it is. He does very, very well to pick up that position and then roll it, well, not roll it, but just guide it into the back of the net, like I said. The thing is, when you're an Arsenal striker, build-up is crucial as well. And a lot of what Gabriel Jesus and Eddie Nketiah are judged on is their build-up and their contribution to everything else, because you get so much output from the likes of Martin Odegaard, Bukayo Saka and Gabriel Martinelli. So if we just look at, for example, let's pick up the Manchester United, here it is, Arsenal Man United. Let's pick up the 2-11s here. You've got Martinelli and Saka, who are quite high up the pitch, and Eddie Nketiah will lead there. You've got Havertz and Odegaard in the spaces. You'll have all seen this a lot. You know what I'm building here, especially if you watch the last Tactical Insight. But what I want to talk about is how Eddie Nketiah actually had a good game against Manchester United, but didn't score and wasn't really getting into particularly sort of dangerous goal-scoring positions. It's because despite having 2 10s like Odegaard and Havertz who just sort of float in those areas, you'd think surely they will be the creators here. Then you've got your wide men who are able to create. You've got Zinchenko and Wirtz. You'd think you should have plenty, but Eddie Nketiah is still having to drop into these spaces to try and link up and bring, and bring these forwards into play here. He still has to do that job. So when you look at things like the Man United goal we scored, Martin Odegaard, which I'm going to illustrate in a little bit, his hold-up play is crucial. So how has he done in terms of hold-up play? Well, let's look at some of his numbers compared to Gabriel Jesus last year. This is Jesus in last season compared to Nketiah last season in the Premier League. Jesus comes out in pretty much everything. We're not just looking at the goal-scoring aspect, the putting the ball in the back of the net. We're looking at so many numbers here. Goals per game, Jesus comes out on top over Eddie Nketiah. Shots per game, he comes out on top, 3 to 1.4. Goal conversion, 14% to Eddie Nketiah's 10%. But then some of these other numbers that contribute to build-up play. Touches per game, much, much better, 47.6 to 15.2 over Nketiah's. Key passes per game, 1.2 to 0.3. Interceptions per game, the defensive work, the press, does better than Eddie Nketiah. Tackles per game, 1.3 to Nketiah's 0.4. And they've got other things like successful dribbles. Can you carry the team up the pitch? 1.7 to Nketiah's 0.5. A dual win percentage of 42% to Eddie Nketiah's 40%. And the amount of times he's fouled per game, 2.2 for Jesus to Nketiah's 0.8. Jesus, even though Nketiah actually did well to come in and lead the line and did okay with winners against Man United, and he did well away from home against Tottenham. He did some really nice stuff, Eddie Nketiah, but he never reached the level that Gabriel Jesus did at his best. And when you look at their numbers per game and sort of other stats, it kind of tells you the bigger picture there. So how's Eddie Nketiah in just 4 games comparing to his numbers from last season? Well, he's up on so many of them. Goals per game is up from 0.1 to 0.5. Shots per game is up from 1.4 to 2.8. His goal conversion is up from 10% to 18%. His touches per game from 15.2 up to 27.5, a massive jump there. Key passes per game is up. Tackles per game is actually down, funnily enough. He's also up on possession wins per game, successful dribbles per game. His dual win percentage is up to 52% from 40%, and his times fouled per game is up to 1.5. So a massive jump. He is contributing to the overall part of the game, not just the striking, putting the ball in the back of the net, so much more, and you can see it there. So if we take those raw numbers and we compare it to Jesus' raw numbers from last season, and you start to realise that, yes, he doesn't win in every metric, but there's certain ones he comes out so much better. Okay, shots per game, still, not as good as Jesus's, but it's very nearly there, 2.8, a massive jump. Goals per game is better, but it's only been 4 games, but you've got to give credit. Touches per game is up significantly. But look at this as well. Dual win percentage, up to 52%. He's getting involved in duels a lot more, Eddie Nketiah, and coming out and having a lot of joy. And actually, he's getting a 10% better win percentage there on Jesus last season. Now, like I said, only 4 games, still lots of football to be played, but his numbers have been clawed right up. Key passes per game, 1.3 to the 1.2 of Jesus last season. It's a far, far, far better set of numbers than we saw in last season, and you're seeing that overall completeness to Eddie Nketiah's game. Let's have a look at the Odegaard goal as well. I mentioned we'd talk about that very briefly. Here it is. We've got Gabriel on the ball, and he fizzes this ball into Martinelli, who flicks it to Zinchenko. Now, what you would sometimes have from strikers here, if we just get an arrow, you might have Nketiah attacking that space now, or maybe sort of saying, give me a curved pass into here, maybe a curved run for Zinchenko to then, feed the ball into that space. You're not getting that though. He's recognising what he can do and build up here to contribute. And as this ball goes to Zinchenko, he's actually recognising that Martinelli's going to make that dart, and he wants it into that space there so he can knock it for Martinelli. And as he goes into the box, Odegaard is also there on the outside. He has contributed to the build-up by picking up that pocket. Havertz wasn't there because he dropped in to pick it up earlier. Martinelli then combines with Zinchenko, so Martinelli then runs beyond for the 1-2, and there is Eddie Nketiah to tie it all together. He played a really, really important part in that goal. Now, I've got another thing here, which is on his attitude and application, Eddie Nketiah, that actually when I first planned this show, I wanted to almost start with that because he gets so much credit for it, but I thought no. Let's give credit for what he's doing on the ball and on the pitch, because that's what we do with every other player. And I don't want to sit here and go, Eddie Nketiah, the sort of, happy-go-lucky, does his best, he's out there, he trains hard, he works hard, good on him, God loves a trier. I didn't want to do that because there's so much of his overall game that he deserves so much credit for, but his attitude is still second to none, absolutely spot on, and it would be wrong of me not to actually give praise in that sense when we're talking about him. Let's have a look at these comments. I think he first had to get a lot of praise for his attitude when that clip came out from the documentary on Amazon Prime with Albert Sambi Lokonga. Lokonga, they were talking about how he's sort of not looking as happy, and Lokonga said, you know, well, I was playing before, blah, blah. And Eddie Nketiah replies, so what, my friend? You think you're the only man not effing playing? My friend, stop feeling sorry for yourself. And a lot of people looked to that because Eddie wasn't a mainstay in the team at the time. Aubameyang was still there playing football, Lacazette was too. And you know, he had a lot to do to fight for his place in the team. Actually ends the season as Arsenal's starting striker. And it was interesting that, you know, he saw Lokonga feeling the way he was feeling, and he said, listen, we're all in that boat, get on with it, stop feeling sorry for yourself. And we saw this as well when Eddie Nketiah was dropped for the Community Shield game. He comes in and scores against Nottingham Forest, and here's what Arteta said after that game. Eddie sums up what we want this season in terms of squad. He was a player who was really disappointed not to start against Man City in the absence of Gabriel Jesus, but he had an incredible impact in the game against City, and he trained this week like a beast. A lot of players ask, why am I not playing? And the thing is that Eddie is telling you, look at all the reasons I'm giving you to play me. When you play him, after you know you're going to have that response, because he's not looking for excuses or anything. He's looking at his own performance and what he can do for the team. This is the example that everyone has to look at. Massive praise from Mikel Arteta, and fantastic to see. Those are the standards you want in training. If you're dropped, you get on with it. There's lots of other good players. You keep going. You train like an absolute monster, and you just do whatever you can to get your place back in that team. He did for Nottingham Forest, scored. He did for Palace, ends up getting a goal, winning us the penalty, having some really nice moments in that game. Then he comes on against Fulham, having been dropped again, shows off the bench what he can do, and then against Man United had a big part to play in the goal that brings us back into that game. There's another quote here, Arteta on Eddie Nketiah's call-up, where he says, I love his mentality, his work rate, how much he loves the game, and how hard he's fought to be recognised at that level. In this country, to play there is phenomenal. I'm so happy for him. It's happened for a reason, the way he pushes himself every single day to be as best as he possibly can and give us everything. Fantastic quotes. Great to see the managers back him so much, and I think the fans are really taking to Eddie Nketiah and the performances he's given us this season. What I would always say with these things, you need to see it over a prolonged period of time. Gabriel Jesus came on against Manchester United and showed us the glue he can be, how much you can stick to him and he can elevate everyone around him. But Eddie Nketiah is a slightly different profile. I think he can, you know, as I said, sniff a chance. I think he can understand that positioning, where to be, where the ball's going to fall, and get himself into goal-scoring positions. But if he can elevate himself to that, you know, Gabriel Jesus upper body strength, low centre of gravity, ability to turn, bring players into play, and combine everything in that front three, if he can add that to that game, as the numbers are suggesting he's starting to this season, then he could be a major asset, whether it be Jesus playing out wide and you play them together, or because he's just getting us goals when we need them most, whether it's off the bench or as a starter, and we want that competition for everyone in the team, Gabriel Jesus included. Really hope you've enjoyed this in focus on Eddie Nketiah. I think he's thoroughly deserved it. I wish him all the best in his time with England, and hope he comes back super confident, ready to score more goals for Arsenal. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe to AFTV, and we'll catch you very soon.